Howdy folks, welcome back to my World of Tanks replays with the mighty Jingles. Today we're looking at the Churchill Mark I, the first British heavy tank at tier 5. And there's a funny old tech tree to get up to the Churchill Mark I. You've got two different ways of doing it. Here's the British tech tree as it is. Obviously no tank destroyers, no artillery, it's just light tanks, medium tanks and heavy tanks. There's the Churchill Mark I. This is the heavy tank line. And there are two different ways of getting to the heavy tank line. You can go down these light tanks, Cruiser Mark I, the A10, the Valentine, or you can go down these fake medium tanks, the Mark II Vickers, the Mark III Vickers, until you finally get a proper medium tank here, the Matilda at tier 4. I haven't looked at these light tanks yet. I've had a go at some of them, but I've only had a game or two and just been derping around and not really looking at the tanks specifically. But I've done previews of these guys, the Mark I, the Vickers Mark I, 2 and 3 and the Matilda. And the Mark I, 2 and 3 are crap. They really are. I mean, the Mark I and the Mark II are okay. They're awful tanks with powerful guns. And then you get to the Mark III and it's an awful tank with awful guns. But luckily it's only at tier 3. Most other nations have their turds at tier 4, where it takes a fair amount of XP to get through them. The British turd is right here, Mark III Vickers at tier 3, and it doesn't take an awful lot of XP to get through that as fast as you can and finally get a decent tank, the Matilda. But I covered all this in my tier 1 to 4 medium tank video. Once you're through the Matilda, you get onto the Churchill, or you can go through the light tanks up here. The Churchill is where we're at. Now, obviously comparisons are going to have to be drawn between this Churchill and the Churchill that's already in the game, the Russian Lend-Lease tier 5 premium Churchill, and here it is. And there were two things that made this thing fun to drive. It was the ridiculous frontal armour and this 6-pounder gun. So there's the gun and there's the tank. Now I'm going to compare these to what's available on the British Churchill, which I must admit I've had fun driving. It's a good tier 5 heavy tank. It fits in quite well with the other tier 5 heavies. It reminds me more of the Americans than the Russians because of the gun selection and the armour, but you know, here we go. What we have here is a tank with 720 hit points. It weighs 40 tons and it only has a 350 horsepower engine. So that limits its top speed to 25.7 kilometers per hour. Interesting that it's 25.7 instead of 26 or just 25, but it is what it is. Turns very slowly, 22 degrees per second. Traverse speed. Armour is not fantastic. It's very, very average. 89mm at the front, turret and hull. But it's kind of uniformly average. There are no real weaknesses in the armour. It's just sort of average everywhere. The hull is 63 at the sides, 76 at the rear. Surprisingly tough rear hull. The turret's 89 at the front and 89 at the side and 76 at the rear. So tier 5 mediums and lights are going to have problems with this thing. Tier 5 heavies aren't. Most tier 6 tanks aren't. No tier 7 tanks are going to have problems killing a Churchill Mark I. So that's something to bear in mind when you are driving this thing. Yes, it's a Churchill. No, it doesn't have 176mm of armour at the front. Forget the existing Churchill. It's nothing like it whatsoever. And that's because of the armour and the gun. Well, we've looked at the armour. I mean, this thing had 176mm at the front. Not all over the front. In patches. There were weak spots. But the other thing that made the existing Churchill, the Russian one, is this quick-firing 6-pounder Mark V gun with a massive 26.25 rounds per minute rate of fire. Decent penetration, 110. That's alright. Not bad at tier 5. Really low damage. But you just spammed shots. You just never took your finger off the trigger. You fire faster than you can aim. And it's horrible accuracy, but enough of them are going to hit for you to get kills. And that's how the Churchill worked. It was a really, really fun tank to drive. Well, unfortunately, you can't take that gun into a tier 7 match. It just wouldn't work at all. And that's why this Churchill, the premium one, never gets into tier 7 games. 5 and 6 are its limit. So you have to have a different gun for the British Churchill, or you have to give it enhanced matchmaking. And that's clearly never going to happen, so what they've done is they've given it a different choice of guns. And boy, oh boy, does this thing have a massive choice of guns. There's the stock weapon there. Quick firing 2-pounder, and it's absolutely rubbish. Very fast firing, 78mm of penetration, 50 damage, reasonable accuracy, very, very fast aiming time. I mean, is that the fastest aiming time in the game? 1.5 seconds? If it isn't, it's bloody close. That's a fast aiming gun. I'll show you what it looks like. There you go. That's just very, it's so weak. I mean, it just looks so British, doesn't it? Oh, in case you're wondering, by the way, the stock Churchill, not the stock Churchill, the Mark I Churchill did actually have a 105mm howitzer mounted in the hull. That's what this is. It has no effect in the game. It's just, you know, there for realism's sake. That's what the tank had. It would basically use that to destroy fortifications and fire high explosive, blow up bunkers, and, you know, kill infantry and all that sort of thing. Doesn't have any effect in the game. It's just there for looks. So there's your quick firing 2-pounder. It's very fast aiming time, but it's an absolutely useless gun. And then here it is. It's the 3-inch, the 76mm howitzer. And again, it's pretty bad. It's got a very fast rate of fire for a howitzer though. But 38 penetration and 175 damage with 0.51 accuracy. Forget it. Just no. And that looks like that. And that looks almost as ridiculous as the 2-pounder. But it still does look very British, doesn't it? You know. Anyway, then we move up and you start finally getting some, you know, some real guns. The quick firing 6-pounder. But it's not a great gun. Again, massive rate of fire. Very fast aiming time, 1.9 second aiming time, 27.27 rounds per minute rate of fire. And the penetration starts to look decent with 105mm of penetration. But the accuracy sucks, 0.43. And again, it's got that lousy damage. This is more like the gun on the Russian premium Churchill, except it has better aiming time. But this is more like that gun. But it's not good enough for the Russian premium Churchill to get into tier 7 games, and it certainly ain't good enough. Oh, wrong gun. I'll show you what it looks like. It certainly ain't good enough for this one either. And again, it looks pretty ridiculous. So, there's the L50 6-pounder Mark V gun, and that one looks like that. And how does that perform? Well, it's still not great. It's just a marginal improvement over the previous gun. Still the same penetration and damage, same rate of fire. It's the only difference is it's slightly less inaccurate. It's still horribly inaccurate. It's just not as horribly inaccurate as the previous 6-pounder gun. So that's a bit of a stopgap and is no real choice. So we're kind of running out of guns to use here. Well, what about the 75mm Mark V? Finally, we start looking like we've actually got a gun on the front of the tank. And how do the stats stack up? Well, it's not good, I'm afraid. It's still got a really fast rate of fire, 20 rounds per minute, but the penetration actually goes down. The damage goes up from 75 to 110, but the penetration drops from 110 to 91, and the accuracy is still awful. Good aiming time though, so geez, are we finally going to get a decent gun on this tank? Well, yep, it's a long hard slog to get to it, but the 75mm Vickers HV finally is a good gun. You get the same gun on the Cromwell. You end up using this on the Churchill Mark VII. You get the same gun on the Comet, and it's a good gun on the Cromwell. It's a good gun on the Comet. On the Comet. It's the only good gun on the Churchill. Before we look at the stats, just check out the research tree and what you have to go through to get this gun. There it is. That is going to be a nasty grind. Now, if you've gone through the medium tanks, you're going to save yourself a lot of pain because you'll already have that gun unlocked. In fact, I think you might even. Yeah, you'll already have that gun unlocked on the Cromwell. This 6-pounder also on the Cromwell. That 6-pounder also on the Cromwell. So you can save yourself a lot of pain and heartache grinding the Churchill by going through the medium tanks first, at least as far as the Cromwell, and get all the guns available on that, because then all you need to do, well, there's the stock turret on the Churchill. Grind out the XP you need for the Mark III turret, and then the Mark IV turret, and then straight away you can stick this 75mm on. You might need to upgrade the tracks first. You probably will need to upgrade the tracks first, but you don't have to suffer through the grind of going through that 6-pounder, that 6-pounder, that 75mm before you finally get a gun that's worth using. And this gun really is worth using. Let's have a look at the stats. Again, it's got a good rate of fire, 13.33 rounds per minute. It's nowhere near as fast as the 6-pounders, but you know it's not bad. Finally, some good penetration, 148. That's really good for a tier 5 machine. Average damage, better than crap damage, is what you've had up until now, 135. But it's pretty accurate, 0.36. And the aiming time isn't bad, 2.3 seconds. That's not bad at all. It's not as fast aiming as any of the previous guns, but 2.3 seconds is not slow aiming time. 2.7, 2.9 seconds, anything over 3 seconds is a slow aiming time. 2.3 is on the okay side of acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that. This is a good gun. It kind of reminds me of the 75mm L70 gun that the Panzer IV used to have and the Stug 3 has. It's got good penetration, decent rate of fire, pretty accurate, aims relatively quickly, average damage output. It reminds me a lot of that L70 75mm German gun, and that's not a bad choice. And effectively what you have here is it's a heavy tank because it sits in the heavy tank line, but it's really got medium tank armour, and it's got a medium tank gun. The only problem is it's got heavy tank speed, 25.7 kph. Oh, this thing's slow. And in that respect, it suffers from the same problems that the premium tier 5 Russian Churchill also suffers, because that's just as slow. And if you just go the wrong way and you end up with nothing to shoot at, it's game over, because this thing's too slow to change its mind and go to the other end of the battlefield. And by the time you get there, your team have either already won or lost. So the same skills are required driving this thing as they are in the other Churchill, even though they're two completely different tanks. That's purely because of the speed of the thing. You need to be able to read the minimap, have good situational awareness, and understand where you need to put this tank, because if you go somewhere and it's the wrong place, it's going to take you an awful long time to get to the right place. And you're going to get, you're going to run into problems. But it's been a fun tank to play. I have had fun with it. I haven't had especially good games with it. In fact, today in particular, I've had some bloody awful games in it. The amount of team killing that's been going on, and it's not just the Russians. There are more Russians team killing because there are more Russians on the test server. It's the test server, it's hosted in Russia, but I've seen Americans doing it, I've seen Europeans doing it, and it's just been horrible. I actually lost one game. The team lost with a negative score because we had that much team killing going on. It was just pathetic. However, I've struggled through for you, my loyal and trusty subscribers, and it's been okay. And I would have to recommend the Churchill, and you'll see why. Oh, before we get on, equipment fit. 2.3 second aim and time, stick an enhanced gun lane drive. 2.3 isn't bad, but it's enough that you will feel the benefit of an enhanced gun lane drive. It's a rapid firing gun, but lowish damage output, average damage output, 135. So you're going to want to maximise the amount of shots you can put down range. And so medium caliber tank gun rammer, and these are relatively cheap. They're not heavy tank gun rammers. They're only 200,000 credits. And again, just to get that reload up a little faster, get the aim and time down a little faster, improve ventilation, and in a tank this slow, anything that helps the driver accelerate a little faster as well is always a good idea. So yeah, improve vents. What other choices are available? Well, nothing really. That's pretty much it. Yeah, maybe a toolbox, but I don't think a toolbox is of more benefit to this tank than any of those three. So that's what I would go for. And heavy tank crew, repairs. Again, generic heavy tank crew. I'm swapping this crew between all of my, except for the FV215B, which I bought a crew for. But this crew are going to go all the way up. So yeah, it might be a better idea to go with clutch braking on the Churchill, but that's not necessarily a fantastic idea on the Conqueror or the Carnarvon. So I've just gone with repairs for my heavy tank crew. If you're having a dedicated crew in your Churchill, yeah, you probably want clutch braking on the driver. But as for the rest of the crew, you can't really go wrong with repairs. There's no particular skill that any of them really badly need. But driver, clutch braking, 22 degrees traverse, yeah, good idea. So let's get some games in, see how it performs. Well, here it is, my first game in the Churchill Mark I. No, it's not an encounter battle, it's a standard battle on Sand River. Oh, look at that, KV-220T. Somebody showing off their premium gift tank. Yeah, a lot of Churchills, a lot of Crusaders. In fact, the teams are predominantly Crusaders and Churchills. So this should be an interesting, even game. It's all going to come down to the teams. So here we go. Got that 75mm Vickers HV gun loaded and ready to shoot. And we're trundling on at our colossal top speed. Oh, going downhill, we actually nearly hit 30 kilometers per hour there. Popping down the corner and going to head into the town. And we've got two Crusaders have zoomed off ahead, so we're at least going to have some notification of what's coming ahead of us. There's a lot of light tank action going off in the dunes up to the north. There's that KV-220T. Artie's moved up. Not sure that's a good spot for him. Actually, yeah. As long as we can take the town, that SU-26 is in a decent spot. I'm just basically popping shots into the town here to blow cover away. Not expecting to hit any of those guys. Oh, the Crusader. I missed. Alright, I'm going to need to move forward. There's dunes in the way. Oh, the Crusaders stood there. Alright, the Crusaders are pumping shots into each other there. It's turning into a light tank fight. And there's another one. And we should be able to hit here. Yep, good hit. Yeah, no, poorly aimed second shot. As you can see, this gun, it's got a good rate of fire on it. There's a Churchill in the town, he's getting pounded. You can hear that pom-pom gun going off from that Crusader. Pom-poms were used primarily by the Royal Navy as anti-aircraft guns. They would fit in quad mountings. Now the gun depression isn't good on the Churchill, I have to say that. I really have to get down low here. And then only got one shot into that other Churchill. Ooh, Crusader just bounced off me there. Which is, you know, to be expected. Crusader's guns are very rapid firing, close range guns. Okay, I'm going to go after that. Just check my flank secure. I know there's another Churchill up here. I'm going to pull back here. External camera view. So this is quite surprising. Now I know I don't have gun depression now. So I know I'm going to have to come up over this dune to engage this other Churchill. We're both on full health. Watch this. Now I'm aiming for his gun mantle. And he... Look at that. I'm just putting holes in him. And there's another Crusader around his side, and he just keeps either bouncing, and he's down. And who's that behind me? Oh, artillery. Yeah, of course it was artillery. But check where the shots were hitting. He was... Artillery again. He was aiming for the periscopes, which seems like a logical place to fire. And I'm having trouble working out whether or not those were penetrating hits or not. And I think they were, but they didn't do any damage. So it could be that those periscopes are actually not weak spots. Either way, if you want to penetrate a Churchill from the front and all you can see it shoot at is his turret, aim for the gun mantle. It's actually a weakness in the armour. It certainly is on the Lend-Lease Churchill. And it seems to have the same turret. And the shots that I put into that guy, you know, had no problem killing him. Unfortunately, at this stage of the game, we are too far away from the remaining enemy tanks to be able to do anything, and the Churchill is just too slow. But we got shot at by a number of tanks there, and the only thing that did any damage was their SU-26 artillery. Now that's going to come as good news for SU-26 drivers, because I know they can be very frustrated shooting at the premium Churchill, the Lend-Lease version, because even direct hits on that thing tend to just, you know, not do any damage at all. SU-26 drivers, Tier 3, Tier 4 artillery, Tier 2 artillery, you can hurt this thing. And there we go, game over. Right, this is an unfriendly game. tier 5 heavy tank in a very, very tier 7 game. Lots of tier 6s, not well, actually no, it's a reasonable spread. There's nothing to complain about here really. There's as many tier 5s as there are tier 6s and tier 7s. Look at that Cromwell go. So I've been having fun driving that thing. Oh, hello. The new Panzer IV. This 75mm gun doesn't have any problems whatsoever with the new premium Panzer IVs. Every shot has penetrated. And we very, very nearly killed him. That was nice. Oh, Crusader. You're not going to have problems penetrating light tanks with this gun. At all. Heavies, well, you're not even going to have problems penetrating most heavies. Tier 7 heavies, yes, certainly you will. But this gun does have enough penetration. Ooh, there's a Black Prince. No, he's gone. And do I really want to be sitting in the open here? Come on, where's your turret? If I can hit this guy, I can penetrate his turret side. There you go. Good shot. Yeah, I like this gun. This thing reminds me more of the American tier 5 and 6 heavies, like the M6 and the T1 heavy, than the Russians, certainly. Oh, there's a Crusader. Well, they're very low health. Come on, aim. Ah, missed. And 361 looks like rammed him to death. Good for you. Black Prince over there, shouting for help. Roger that. Let's go and give him some support. Looking kind of weak on this side. Everybody seems to be down the middle or on the other flank, so let's play defensively here. And I think, if I remember how this game went, this is where I come to a very sticky end. See that rock with the bushes up ahead? I think, oh, there's a comet. Alright, let's do him. There we go. Yes, that rock. This is the game I'm thinking of. Yeah, this gets a bit embarrassing. See that rock up ahead with the bushes either side? I figure I'll just go and park up behind that rock. Because there's only two of us here and I don't want to go charging around the corner. Oh crap, oh crap, oh my god, two T-150s and the Black Prince. And then suddenly... Oh, I'm in trouble now. Oh, I'm in so much trouble now. And here they come. And come on, help, help. Oh crap, put one shot into him and I bounced one from God knows what. But yeah, the writing was on the wall at that point. There's no way I was surviving that. And these fellas just steamrolled all over us. Yeah, that was a loss. But not a bad game. I did okay. Until that point, obviously, when I just walked right into the lion's den. You know, tier 7 heavy and two tier 6s and a Dicker Max behind them. I was never going to walk away from that one. Right, tier 6 game. Yeah, this should be okay. Unfortunately, there were some utterly retarded drivers. Look at these KV2s. What's these clusters here? Okay, well, I don't want to sit. First of all, he blocks him, so I decide to go around the back, and right at that point, that's when this fella decides to start reversing. God almighty. You can stop any time you like. Thank you. Hope you don't die soon. Anyway, looking forward to driving that thing. Mark I Churchill. That's got some tough armour. The Mark I doesn't. It's really a medium tank with a medium tank gun and heavy tank speed. But that doesn't mean it's not fun. So here we go. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Eventually we're going to have something to shoot at. The Panzer IVs. Premium tier 6 German tank, which I refuse to spend money on. I used to have one of those, they took it off me, gave me a turd in exchange, and now expect me to pay gold to get my old tank back. It's worth matchmaking. Go and poke yourselves, wargaming. I'm not paying you money for that. Here they come. that M18 is charging right out in the middle of nowhere and sitting flank on to, well, we know there's a Panzer IV-S there, it goes, it's starting to take hits. We know there's a Panzer IV-S there, we don't know what else is around that corner, and there's definitely something else. That M18's taken 2 hits very, very quickly. It's not just the Panzer IV-S shooting at him. And he's still sitting there. Oh, and he's moving forward. He's getting hit and he's moving further forward. Oh. Think about what you're doing. Now remember, the Churchill has lousy gun depression, so you've really got to go over the edge of these rises in the ground to get shots at the target. And it's going to take me at least 2 to kill this Panzer IV-S. There you go. And we do roughly the same damage to each other. It's just a question of who loads first. Fortunate now. Yeah, he gets another hit into me, and I could have fired before he did. Oh, bounce from an A13. Who I think has the 40mm Bofors gun, which is a good gun. But he, look at his turrets turning each way, he doesn't know which one to shoot or who to shoot at. But yes, I mean, I could have gotten the first shot into that Panzer IV, but don't forget, physics in play now. Come over rough ground, your gun bounces all over the place, you've got to wait for it to steady before you can fire. And now there's a Churchill Mark 7 up there, and trying to find a place where I can penetrate this guy is hard work. Because he has 152mm of armour in the front, and this gun has 148mm of penetration. It's a good gun, but that is a tough tank. And I'm not keen on going up here without some sort of support. He's used a repair kit. That's good. Wasted a repair kit on his tracks. Oh, he's pointing his gun at me. And he's moving forward to get a better hit. Let's back up, back up, back up. See, he was concentrating fire on that A13, which let me put some shots into him. This is still anybody's game. No artillery, thankfully. Alright, can't do anything about those fellas. Let's see if we can get this Mark 7. Oh, come on, give me something to shoot at. There we go. That's more like it. Give me the side of your turret, and I will put holes in it. A13's being brave here with his 40mm Bofors. Actually, he's not being brave, he's being very, very, very good indeed. We'll see him circle around that guy and take any damage. Oh, he's bringing his gun on me, and the A13 comes around the other side and finishes him off. Check that out. Fortunately, we've got a team killer. There's been so much of this on the test server today. It's just been ridiculous. And we're being capped, and we're losing. Nobody seems to be in any hurry to go and reset the cap. Looks like that M6. I'm a bit worried about the M6's 90mm gun, but somebody's got to do it. I only have 422 health left. 2 or 3 hits from that M6 can kill me, and he will penetrate. Just shooting at the cover in the middle of the cap zone there. I think it's the M6 who's doing the capping. Penetrated him, didn't do any damage, puts one into me. And suddenly he's not the only one shooting at me, and I'm getting shot at from every angle. And it turns out, look at that sneaky bastard in the Cromwell. I didn't even spot him on the map. And that was a loss. Well, this game was an utter clusterfuck. But I'm going to include it for 2 reasons. One is a cautionary tale about the armour of the Churchill Mark I. And 2, look at that. TDG-2. What the hell is that? Answers on a postcard. I have never even heard of that tank. It looks British. Haven't got a clue. No idea what that is. Obviously some sort of beta tester gift tank on the Russian server. Unfortunately, this game was a total cluster for a couple of reasons. First, watch this. I'm trying to drive into the town, and everybody makes a beeline for the TDG2. Some arseholes even start shooting at it. They just want to see this tank. And I'm like, guys, get the hell out of the way. There's a... Now the other thing, well... Jesus Christ. Move, you pricks. And great. Now, the entire team has barely made it out the friggin' cap circle, and we've all, because we were all sitting gawking at that weird tank. And now we've all been spotted. And here comes the artillery. The Tiger P's been wrecked by the Hummel already. And now I'm the target of their attentions. Look at this. What a disaster. And this is me getting killed by a T-50-2. That's the side armour. It's not fantastic. And then in true lemming fashion, a Chaffee comes charging through, and the entire team, I'm just trying to get into the bloody town, and the entire team comes running over to shoot at the M24. And yet somehow, I don't know how, but somehow we're winning. Oh, this was an amusing game, to say the least, but yeah, that's pretty much... I mean, I'm not even going to show you the rest of this. It was just so depressing. But look at that tank. Look at that thing. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to show you this clip. And that, what the hell is that? I've never even heard of it, let alone seen one before. Yeah. 148mm penetration in front of a Tiger P. It's never going to end well. And that Panzer V, that Panther M10 up there ended up basically nuking us. So it's very depressing. I don't want you to see how noobish I was. So I'm going to end this one here. Go and have a different game. Tier 7 game again. This time there's a lot of them. And we're on Cliff. Standard battle. I don't think there are any other battle types on Cliff, but yeah, here it is. I have to apologise in advance here because my shooting in the first part of this game was abysmally bad. It's so bad it was funny. Here we go. T-50-2. And he's probably spotted me, and I've stopped in the middle of an open field with a Hummel on the enemy team. Big, juicy, fat XP pinata that I am. By some miracle I get away with it. Finally start moving. And it seems to be the day for suiciding. Yeah, look at the shooting I'm doing here. It's just abysmally bad. Look at that. That was just wasn't even pointing in his direction, let alone at him. Finally, I learned how to shoot. So T-49 put a hit into me. Only did 86 damage. And now I can finally start playing like I mean it. So I come up to this corner. Very conscious of the fact that they've got 3 meaty tank destroyers on the other side, and this is Tank Destroyer Alley, and I managed to knock over every piece of foliage on the way, just to, you know, just let artillery know I'm coming. Now, oh my god, there's Black Prince around the corner. Back up, back up. If I've proximity detected him, he knows I'm here too. And if he knows I'm here, artillery knows I'm here, and artillery is usually zeroed in on that corner. Not today, however, and somebody put a big hit into him, and it's the AC-46. And the little tanks haven't finished suiciding. I feel quite dirty. I killed a Chaffee. I'm going to go to hell for that. And this guy seems to be waiting for me to go first. Are you serious? I'm tier 5, you're tier 7. I mean, what? Yeah, alright. I was going to wait for the comet. Right, okay. Well, oh, hello. SU-12244. Let's make him back off. Hopefully we can kill him. Yeah. Bounced. Okay, the Black Prince has gone around the corner. Now, I can't let him go out here alone. But of course, an easier kill comes into sight. And yeah, everybody's going to start shooting at me. Fair enough, I knew this was going to happen. It's the chance you take. And look at these two Black Princes pumping shots into each other, and neither of them are doing any damage. There goes the Comet. Black Prince kills him. And I finish off the Black Prince because I get around behind him. But that SU-122 hasn't finished with me yet. Oh, and there goes Artie. And there it is. The SU-122 finishes me off. I was kind of expecting that, but I needed to support the Black Prince. Now, unfortunately, I can't switch to a view of the Black Prince because this was... Watch these guys. Don't forget that SU-212... There he is. Now that SU-12244 puts a shot into the MLE and blows his tracks off. There it is. The Black Prince is sitting to the side of the tank destroyer. And what he actually does here is he moves forward and starts putting shot after shot after shot into that SU-122. While the SU-1... There it is, you can see him hitting him. And the SU-122 just ignores him and carries on shooting at the tank destroyer. With the Black Prince hitting that SU-122 and eventually kills him at least 4 or 5 times. None of them doing any damage. And I'm just thinking to myself, is this guy the worst shot in the world? Is he an even worse shot than I am? Or what? Well, it turns out no. As you're going to see in the after battle report. Speaking of which, let's skip to that. We did actually win this one. So, that game was interesting. Let's have a look at the details. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Got me the second class mastery badge, but that's purely because it's not because I did amazingly well. It's because I was a tier 5 heavy tank in a tier 7 game. So experience bonus and doubled. Obviously, that's 1102 XP, which is all right. Yeah, it's a decent result. Didn't do incredibly well. I had some shocking shooting at the beginning of that game. God, my aiming was just horrible. I'm going to put it down to lag. And hope you fall for it. But yeah, 13 shots fired, 9 hit, and those 4 that missed, mostly those guys at the beginning, the T49 and the T50. I was just a horrible shot in the first few minutes of that game. But of the 9 that we fired, 8 penetrated, and we did 600 damage. It took 4 hits, most of those, in fact almost all of those, from that SU-12244, or SU-44-122, whatever it is, the new tier 7 Russian premium tank destroyer. But I accepted that I was going to take those hits because I couldn't let that Black Prince go around the corner and try to take down another Black Prince one-on-one with flanking fire from that tank destroyer. He needed support, so, stepped up, took one for the team, and fully expected to take... I didn't take as many hits from him as I thought I was going to take. Managed to kill that Black Prince, and then, unfortunately... Where is he? Now, initially, when I was watching the replay, I was thinking, oh my god, I finally found somebody who is an even worse shot than I am. This Russian Black Prince driver. But you know what? He wasn't. Of the 23 shots he fired, 22 of them hit, but only 9 penetrated. Wow, what's going on there? Well, it could be a couple of things. Here is the Black Prince. I haven't driven it yet, but it's fully kitted out. It's got all the best equipment. I just need to, once I'm done with the Churchill Mark I and the Churchill Mark VII, I'll move on to the Black Prince, and I'll keep bumping the crew up as we go. But there it is. Now let's have a look at that gun. Now, initially, when I was watching the replay, I was thinking, oh my god, I finally found somebody who is an even worse shot than I am. This Russian Black Prince driver. But you know what? He wasn't. Of the 23 shots he fired, 22 of them hit, but only 9 penetrated. Wow, what's going on there? Well, it could be a couple of things. Here is the Black Prince. I haven't driven it yet, but it's fully kitted out. It's got all the best equipment. I just need to, once I'm done with the Churchill Mark I and the Churchill Mark VII, I'll move on to the Black Prince, and I'll keep bumping the crew up as we go. But there it is. Now, That quick-firing 17-pounder Mark 7 is the best penetrating gun available on the Black Prince. In fact, it's hands down the best gun on the Black Prince. If you look at its predecessor, same accuracy, same aiming time, but 30 less penetration, 148 penetration. It's kind of equivalent to the 75mm gun on the Churchill. This one is slightly better damage, much better penetration. Still got a good rate of fire. So, there you go. That's the gun he's using. But 171 penetration. That's not great. But then again, the Russian Tier 7 heavies have been putting up with 175mm of penetration for a long time, and they seem to do okay. And they don't have the rate of fire of this thing, but they do more than double the damage when they hit. So that's the trade-off. This is... this is turning into a Black Prince review. It shouldn't be. But it explains why that Black Prince did so shockingly badly when he came around that corner after I died with that French tank destroyer. He was hitting, he just couldn't penetrate the front of that tank destroyer. And that other Black Prince, which is kind of worrying, but more on that when I eventually come to do the Black Prince review. We're still here on the Churchill. And it's, I'm not doing incredibly well in it, but I like it. It seems to fit right in with the other Tier 5 heavies. The gun is... Well, you look at the Lend-Lease Churchill, the ones the Russians have, the premium tank. You had to make changes to that, not just because you don't want to be driving the same tank in the British tree, but because it couldn't compete as a regular tank with that gun that it gets. Because the gun just doesn't do the penetration or the damage. It's a rapid-firing pop gun. You spam them with shots, and at Tier 5 and 6, you can penetrate, you can hurt, you can kill tanks. At Tier 7, that gun is a joke. It is just totally ineffective. And that's why the premium Churchill gets enhanced matchmaking. It only gets in at Tier 5 and 6 games, because it just couldn't do a thing in a Tier 7 game with that gun. So they had to come up with a new gun for the British Churchill. And I think they did a good job. It's a medium tank gun, basically. But, the American heavy tanks at Tier 5 and 6, they get medium tank guns as well, and they do really well with them. The Russians, they get their 122mm Derb guns, or their 107mm? Yeah, the 107mm gun on the T150. And they do well with them as well. Totally different kind of gun. They've both got kind of the same penetration as the British and the American guns, but they fire slower, they're not as accurate, but they do a lot more damage. So, that's the balancing act that they're playing here. And I think they made a good choice with this 75mm gun for the Churchill one. It can be frustrating, however, because the penetration on it, there you go, 148, which is alright. Yeah, it's alright. It's kind of like the Panzer IV's old gun before it got the crap nerfed out of it. Well, before it got taken off it, and it got stuck with that L48 turd of a gun. The stats are roughly similar. It's got more or less the same penetration, more or less the same damage, more or less the same accuracy, more or less the same aiming time, more or less the same rate of fire. It's a British version of the L70, or the old L70. The only problem is the penetration one isn't bad. I mean, it's pretty damn good. Hey, let's not fool ourselves. It's pretty damn good penetration for a Tier 5 tank. But Tier 5 tanks can get into Tier 7 games. And if you're shooting at the front of targets, because you're a heavy tank, you're going to be expected to take on the heavy tank role. Maybe not as much in a Tier 7 game, but you'll be expected to support the heavies. And as you saw there, perfect example in that game that we just had. It's Black Prince around the corner. Our Black Prince goes around, I go around with him. And I was completely ineffective until I managed to get around the side of the other Black Prince. But this thing only does 22 kilometers, 25. No, I was right the first time. What is the speed limit? Where is it? There you go. Yeah, 25 kilometers per hour. So getting around the side can take time, and you're going to get hit on the way around. So in a higher tier game, playing this thing definitely in a Tier 7 match, to a lesser degree in a Tier 6 match, you really probably want to support the other slow heavies. Because going it alone, it's going to be... Well, it's going to take you forever to get there, because you only do 25.7 kph, and you're not going to be that effective when you get there. Nevertheless, it's all about knowing your role. understand the strengths and weaknesses of your tank. The tank's got a good gun. It's got a great gun in a tier 5 match. It's got a decent gun in a tier 6 match. The gun's just okay in a tier 7 match. To be effective in a tier 7 game, you need to get this tank around the sides and rear, but your tank is too slow to effectively do that. Therefore, you need to support other tanks when you're in a higher tier match. And, it should work out reasonably well. I mean, we did okay in that one. It wasn't terrible. We just ended up getting killed because shit happens. So, yeah, the Churchill. Yeah, not bad. I'm kind of enjoying it. But, yeah, I've got time for another one. And then we get this. Standard battle on Malinovka. Now, there ain't no way in a tank that manages to do 25 kilometers per hour. There's just no way I'm going up the hill. And I detest camping the base on Malinovka, but you don't have an awful lot of options when you're driving something as slow as this. But there was some incredible derpage going on in our team in this game. This was, actually this game left a kind of a sour taste in my mouth, as you'll see when you see the after battle report. We should have lost this. But we ended up winning it, but not for any of the reasons you would think. Now look at this BT-7, one of the fastest tanks in the game. And what does he do? Where does he go? Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Su-85 doesn't exactly cover himself with glory over there either. And here comes the Crusader.
Enemy armor is damaged.
Look at this prick. He actually... I would have had that Crusader, but they got rammed by the BT-7 and put my sights off. The Crusader puts his shots through the window. Meanwhile, I'm dealing with this Wolverine. Finished him off. Okay, this Crusader played well. Now I know I'm going to take a hit or two. This is Su-85. Why is that Crusader still alive? How can an Su-85 go face to face with a Crusader light tank and not kill him? I don't get it. So we took a big hit there, 391 damage. That probably means, I don't know, I'm not sure what the hell hit us. Could have been artillery. And look at this, the team haven't even left the friggin' base yet. I mean, you can understand the Churchill's camp in the base, but... An A13? So I'm on 211 health. Now this spot, with the wreckage that's here, is a good cover, but kind of restricts my field of view. Oh, Panzer 3-4. I ain't going to hit him from here, so I'm going to have to move. The wreckage of that Crusader's in the way, so I'm going to have to go around the other side. Sort of carnage is going on behind us. Matilda Black Prince just killed our Matilda. Oh. I'm taking a lot of track damage here. Is that Matilda Black Prince? Well, I'll get the Panzer 3-4 anyway. It's not taking any actual damage. It's just track damage. And that Black Prince is out there, so there he is. Okay, let's put this gun to work. I've at least angled the front of the tank, and again all they're doing is blowing my tracks off. Then I take a hit and I get finished off by, of all things, a Howitzer. So cautionary tale there, for Churchill Mark I drivers. You don't have the armour you think you do in this thing. If Hetzers can put shots through your front, and Matilda Black Princes can put shots through your front. Unbelievably, that was actually a victory. And for none of the reasons that you're thinking, oh wow, well the team looked like they were just completely useless. They must have really stepped their game up after you quit out the battle. No, the team were in fact so incredibly shit that they would have a hard time finding their own arse in the dark without the aid of a flashlight and a particularly easy to understand map. What happened was this guy. He went on the rampage and started killing all his own team. He actually killed 3 of them. Did nearly 1,000 damage to his own team. So, unfortunately, we won that one because of a wanker on the enemy team. And it's just been like this all friggin' day on the test server. And it's not just the Russians. I've seen Americans, it's mostly the Russians because it's mostly Russian players on the server, but I've seen Americans doing it, I've seen Europeans doing it, and it's just so depressing. Most of the time they've been on the other team, but not always. And that is, we should have lost that game. Our team were crap. All the guys who were any good died, which left the losers the only ones left alive, and we should have lost. Unfortunately, because of this arsehole here, this team of retards got a victory that it didn't deserve. And surprisingly, I didn't get that doubled. That would have been my first win of the day in the Churchill, and it's still sitting here with the _2 for the first experience, ×2 experience for the first victory of each day. Kind of weird, but it was a fun game. We did all right until we got blown up. 3 kills, did a buttload of damage to that Matilda. Nearly killed him. Unfortunately, we got nailed before we could. And a respectable amount of damage done to enemy tanks that we detected. So yeah, that was okay. As you can see by the detailed report, we fired 12, 9 of them hit, 8 of those hits penetrated. We did nearly 1,000 damage. We took 10 hits. And that's the sort of number you can expect to see when you're top tier in the Churchill, because it's not incredibly well armoured. Don't go thinking that this is the Lend-Lease Churchill. It ain't. It really, really ain't. That Lend-Lease Churchill, in parts, has 176mm of armour at the front. This thing very definitely doesn't. 89mm hull and upgraded turret. But it's surprisingly even, if you like, the armour layout. 89 at the front, 63 at the side, 76 at the rear. So there aren't really many weaknesses with it. And it will benefit a lot from angling, because again the side armour is almost as good as the front. Well, I say almost as good, it's almost as average as the front armour. So angling did work. We took 10 hits in that game, and not all of them, not even close to all of them, penetrated. But you only have 720 hit points. Most of the guns shooting at you are doing over 100 damage, so it doesn't take a lot of hits to kill you. You need to angle, and you'll have fun. And I have had fun driving the Churchill. The Mark I. It's not a bad tank. It's fun, and I think it fits in quite well with the other Tier 5 heavy tanks, like the T1 Heavy. It plays more like the T1 Heavy than any of the others. It's more like one of the Americans with a rapid-firing gun, but it's a very accurate rapid-firing gun for Tier 5, and it's got good penetration. You just need to play it in a more of a supporting heavy tank role when you're in a Tier 7 game, because you're going to get into Tier 7 games, and that 75mm gun is only a medium tank gun. It's a good medium tank gun, but just remember you're a heavy tank with medium tank armour, a heavy tank speed, and a medium tank gun. And you're going to have fun with the Churchill. I don't think it's good enough for me to keep it. I'm going to go through it. I'll probably have fun grinding my way from this to the Churchill Mark 7. But I don't think I'll keep a hold of it. I'll probably transfer the crew up. The Carnarvon, the Conqueror, the FV215B, those look like fun British heavy tanks. The Churchill, don't get me wrong, the Churchill is fun. I'm sure the Churchill Mark 7 will be fun. I'm sure the Black Prince will be fun. But the Carnarvon, the Conqueror, and the FV215B, they look like keepers. But you certainly won't regret getting yourself the Churchill. And as a Tier 5 tank, as you can see, it makes money. Not a massive amount of money, because it's only Tier 5, but yeah, it makes money. And the repairs are not that expensive at all. Completely destroyed tank, 4,000 credits to repair. And the ammo's cheap as chips. 512 shots only cost us 672 to repair to rearm, and even if we hadn't been playing a premium account, and this is why people drive their tier 5 tanks, because you never lose money driving them. We didn't do amazingly well. We did just less than 1,000 damage, and even without a premium account, that would have still been a 4,000 credit profit. So, yeah, and it wasn't a great game. You have a great game, you're looking at, these things are good earners. That's why people keep their tier 5 machines. So that's the Churchill. Totally different to the existing Churchill, the Russian tier 5 premium Lend-Lease Churchill. And that's not a bad thing, because they couldn't make this thing the same. It had to be different, and it certainly needed a better gun to remain competitive in a tier 7 match, and that's exactly what they've done. And I think they've done a pretty good job. I've certainly had fun driving this thing, and I'm sure you guys will too. So, hope you enjoyed the preview. Take care, and I'll catch you on the battlefield.